You know, when you argue with a fool, you just prove there are two.
Welcome back to another edition of our Powerhouse Patriot series. Today we're going to take a look at Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana being a strong conservative badass. So hit that like button and subscribe to support our channel and enjoy the show.
And I consider Congresswoman Omar, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman Tlaib, Congresswoman Presley, I think is her name. They call themselves the Squad. I consider them to be fools. They hate America. They think America was wicked in its origins, and it's even more wicked today. They ought to be thanking America instead of calling America evil and wicked and racist. But this is America, and they have the right to their opinion. But I don't like to see the president even dignify their point of view. Besides that, I think that the Squad, as they call themselves, they are destroying the Democratic Party. You know, when your opponent is screwing up, don't interrupt him. Let him go. I mean, just looking at this from a political standpoint, if I didn't know better, I would think the members of the Squad were GOP plants. I mean, they think that illegal immigration, socialism, higher taxes, abortion are all moral goods. They think America, Israel, free enterprise are moral bads. That's not what most Americans believe.
Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here today. Professor Goodwin, help me understand your point of view. I think this is a yes or no question. Do you support it being legal to abort an unborn child up to the moment of birth?
Senator Kennedy, it is not a yes or no question. I support women like Ms. Zarowski. Women across this...
No, ma'am, I don't... I think it is a yes or no question.
No, well, let me answer.
If there were a law that's... I'm just trying to understand your perspective, and I'm not accusing you of this.
Of course not.
But you know, people sort of talk around this issue. If there were a bill that said that a woman has an unfettered right to abort an unborn baby for any reason up to the moment of birth, would you vote yes or would you vote no?
Senator Kennedy, I refuse to be shackled by your question. What I have answered is that there are conditions that occur
you don't know whether
pregnancy.
You would vote yes or no?
There are conditions during pregnancy that mean after 10 weeks, 14 weeks,
I said
20 weeks,
discretion.
24 weeks,
you
conditions
would
such as Ms.
support,
Zarowski.
You're here advocating.
I would support her life.
I
would support her
too,
personhood.
But you're advocating a law.
I support her personhood.
You're advocating a law that says that an unborn baby can be aborted up to the moment of birth for any reason, are you not?
Let me clarify what the 14th Amendment says in the first sentence, that citizens of this United States are individuals that are born. That is what our Constitution says.
But why won't you answer my question, Professor? I'm not trying to argue. I just want to understand what your position is, and I think you're afraid to say that you do support that. If you do support it, I think you, just for the purpose of a intellectual discussion, you ought to just say so.
For purposes of an intellectual discussion, I'm happy to have that with you. But
well,
that's not
the tone. Could you answer my question? Do you support, please? I mean, you teach. Okay, I'm sure you've had students ask this question. Do you support making it legal to abort an unborn baby for any reason any reason up to the moment before birth.
Senator, let's have that intellectual discussion that you want.
We could start if you'd answer my question. I can't go to my next question until you answer that question.
I want you to be able to go to your second
good.
and your
Answer
third
it for
questions.
me.
I do. But as I have explained, there are many different conditions.
No, I said
during
unfettered
a
discretion, no conditions. I'm making it easy for you.
Well, I've already shared with you, Senator, that I
get
support
it.
women's
I don't want to use all my time. You're not going to
And I
answer
support
it,
Ms.
and that is your
Orozco's
right. But I
personhood.
would respect you more if you just say, "Here's my
I'm
answer."
sorry that you don't respect me very
respect
much.
you, but I said I'd respect you more if you just answer my question. Doctor, tell me how to say your last name. Ms. Dr. Rubenhorst. Do you support a law that would allow, for any reason, unfettered discretion, the abortion of an unborn child up until the moment of birth?
No.
You don't. Dr. Verma?
Senator Kennedy, so I'm the one doctor in this room that does provide abortion care, and I can tell you that does not reflect the reality of abortion
I
care.
understand. I'm just asking a question.
It simply doesn't
But do you
happen.
support it? There are bills before Congress that will allow that to happen. You don't support it, or are you going to not answer my question?
As the doctor in this room who does provide abortion care, that is not how abortion care in this country works. It's a hypothetical that does a disservice
But if a
to our
patient came to you
patient.
and said, I'm going to probably have a baby this week and I've changed my mind, and I would like you, doctor, to abort the child, would you do it?
That is not how abortion care in this country
But if
works.
a patient did, would you do it?
My job as a doctor is to look at each individual situation.
I mean,
but
I'm
have
sorry, I don't
never-
mean to be rude, but I can tell neither you nor the professor will answer my question.
I
think you both have an opinion, and I don't understand why you won't share it. We're going to solve this problem.
I've provided care for a few years, and I've never seen that situation.
How about you, Doc? Would you?
Do not support unfettered abortion, and I would like to point out that if a woman did have a life-threatening condition in pregnancy past approximately 22 weeks, that baby can be delivered alive by induction or C-section, and we can try to save that baby. The intent of abortion is a dead baby, and that is not necessary in that situation.
I mean, I want you to all understand where I'm coming from. This is a tough issue. And it's a tough issue because there's some tough questions we've got to answer. And when you won't answer the questions, when you're invited by my Democratic friends, the majority, and you won't answer the most fundamental question, we've got a bill in front of us that will basically say a woman has the unfettered right to abort at any time for any reason up to the moment of birth. And that's a gut check issue. And I would expect you as experts to answer that truthfully, how you do it. Thank you for your indulgence, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Ossoff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to all of the witnesses for joining us and sharing your experiences and perspective. It's been tremendously impactful to hear from you. And Mr. Chairman, I do want to note and acknowledge that we have a Georgia physician with us, and Dr. Verma. Thank you for your work providing health care for Georgia women at a time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for calling this hearing. Ms. Umberger, you were in a Georgia state prison?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And Ms. LeBoy, am I saying your name right?
Yes, sir.
Your daughter was in a state prison?
Yes, York Correctional.
In Georgia?
York Correctional. In Connecticut.
In Connecticut?
In Niantic, Connecticut,
Okay.
yes.
Well, I want to thank both of you for coming. It's, I mean, your testimony was instructive, but that sounds kind of sterile when you put it that way. It was also moving. I know these four colleagues well. Hope we'll have another hearing on this subject. I would like to sit down with them and others and try to figure out how to address this problem.
Yeah.
I've had this discussion with Senator Booker before. I think we need to address the issue of solitary confinement in our prisons. We need to involve law enforcement. I'm hoping in another hearing we'll offer the Georgia state officials the chance to come in and tell us what happened here and offer constructive suggestions. I guess what I'm saying is I pledge to you to try to sit down and let's see if we can address this problem. I'm gonna have to leave in a second. I don't want you to be offended by that. We've got a vote going on. Dr. Suffren, tell me your credentials again.
I'm a board-certified obstetrician gynecologist, and I also have a doctoral degree.
Yes, ma'am. And you're a professor?
I'm a professor at Johns Hopkins University.
And the medical school, or?
In the School of Medicine and at the School of Public Health.
Okay. You're a chaired professor, or?
I am not.
Okay. All right. But you represent, or you are a part of the Johns Hopkins system?
I am,
Yeah.
but I'm not representing Johns Hopkins.
Understand. Well, if we're going to solve this problem, we've got to be candid with each other. Do you have a Twitter account?
Thank you, Senator, for your question, but I'm here today to talk about my expertise on reproductive health care for incarcerated women.
Is your Twitter account jail care?
That is thank you, Senator. That is a Twitter account that is associated with a book that I published in 2017. But I'm really here today to talk about my expertise on reproductive health care and pregnancy care for incarcerated women.
On September 29th of 2018, at 3:33, I'm going to read you one of your tweets. These are your words, not mine. Quote, Piper reminding us that gathering to discuss ending incarceration of women girls. Piper reminding us that gathering to discuss ending incarceration of women and girls is anecdote to white supremacist Kavanaugh shit show. Professor, did I read that correctly?
Thank you for reciting that. I'm really here today to talk about research and improving conditions for incarcerated pregnant women.
Were you speaking for Johns Hopkins when you sent this out?
I was not speaking for Johns Hopkins.
Well, I'd like to solve this problem, Professor. But we're not going to solve it with that kind of attitude. Thank you, ladies, for being here. I appreciate the courage that it took to come forward today.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
As tempted as I am, Dr. Suffren, to take the bait,
Hello, Louisiana. Thank you, Mr. President, for visiting our state. In 3 short years, President Trump has doubled the growth in the greatest economy in all of human history. And you know what our Democratic friends have done for him? Speaker Nancy Pelosi is trying to impeach him. disrespect, but it must suck to be that dumb. Now let me tell you one other thing. The same people that are backing Speaker Pelosi are sending tens of millions of dollars to support Governor Edwards. And all he has given us, all Governor Edwards has given us is decline and uncertainty. Now, unless you're happy with crappy, I want you to vote for Eddie Rispone for governor. And I want you to vote for Kyle Erdogan for Secretary of State. And I want you, this is important, I want you to vote for Robert Mills for the Louisiana State Senate. God bless Louisiana, God bless our president, and God bless the United States of America. You are probably the least productive member of your district court, isn't that right?
Well, I have not considered myself in those terms, Senator.
Well, let me explain what I mean. You have 125 motions pending that you declined to decide.
Let
me finish. That's more than any other district judge in the entire 7th Circuit. In fact, you rank 7th highest nationally, do you not?
I am not familiar with those statistics, Senator Kennedy.
You haven't looked?
I did look in preparation for this hearing, but I didn't compare myself to others.
You haven't seen that you ranked the 7th the worst in the country in terms of making decisions?
You are the first to tell me this. And I think for me, I stress the quality of my decision making. And as I explained, I came on, I was the first district judge to come on during this administration.
Yeah, but so were all the others. I mean, there have been 68 district judges confirmed in the 117th Congress. In terms of motions pending for more than 6 months, you rank number 3. You all came on at the same time. You all had the same problems with COVID. You're the 3rd worst. You really think of all the other district judges in the 7th Circuit, you're the one that ought to be promoted based on this record?
Senator, this is something that I've discussed with my fellow judges. Many of us new judges from...
I thought you said you'd never looked at these statistics.
I haven't. These particular statistics I am not familiar with. But in terms of new judges, both from the current administration and the former administration, we are quite a collegial bunch, and oftentimes talk about the pressures of a new judge and the way reassignments work in our district, which is that you get, for example, 300 cases.
Yes, ma'am, I understand. I'm familiar with the procedure in federal court. Here's what I'm trying to understand. Why is your record so bad?
Well, I don't view it that way, Senator. When I look at the quality of my decision-making, the feedback that I get from parties,
of course parties are not going to criticize you. They want you to rule in their favor.
I understand, Senator Kennedy.
I mean, that's just the way it works. Help me understand why you have such an abysmal record in moving cases. I mean, it costs a lot of money to litigate, and people are paying lawyers, and time is money. And of all the district court judges, in the 7th Circuit, you're the worst. in terms of moving cases? Why do you think you deserve to be promoted over all of those others?
So, Senator, again, I'm not familiar with the statistics, but I stand by my record and that I give parties what they need. I think, I am regularly in my courtroom. I am regularly issuing decisions. I just came on at a very difficult time where there was a backlog in the courts.
So did everybody else. Let me ask you, when you were a partner in your law firm, you volunteered to write a brief on behalf of the Brady Center. You wrote the brief, and this is what you said. You volunteered for this. You weren't being paid. Is that right?
This was a pro bono case that one of my partners brought in, yes.
You said, quote, assault weapons may be banned because they're extraordinarily dangerous and are not appropriate for legitimate self-defense purposes, close quote. Tell me what you meant by assault weapons.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy. Just to clarify there, I was local counsel. Our Supreme...
but you wrote the brief. Tell me what you meant by assault weapons.
Senator Kennedy, actually, I did not write the brief. The brief was written by...
You signed the brief, though, didn't you?
Correct. I signed the brief.
You sign a brief, you're testifying to the court that everything in it is true, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So
they're your words in terms of the court, right?
Well, you're correct, Senator Kennedy. Okay. I would never sign...
Tell me what you meant by assault weapons.
So I am not a gun expert, and at the time, that brief, I think, was about 10 years...
Given the court advice about, say, ban assault weapons. What is... You told the court you were an expert. Just tell me what you wanted to ban.
Senator, sitting here today, as I said, I did not write that brief. I was local counsel.
Sign the brief.
I understand. At the time...
Tell me what you wanted to ban. That's all I want to know, Judge.
I don't remember the exact definition of assault weapons in the ordinance that was at issue.
So you submitted a brief to an appellate brief, you signed it, and you don't know what, and you said abolish assault weapons, and you don't know what you wanted them to abolish?
Senator, at the time that I signed the brief, I read the brief because our Supreme Court required an Illinois bar member to sign the brief. I was not responsible for researching the content.
You were responsible for the brief.
Absolutely. And sitting here today, I do not remember the characteristics of that were cited in the ordinance for the assault weapons ban. It's not an area of practice that I have specialized in. I'm sure 10 years ago I could have answered your question.
And
but sitting here today,
you think you deserve to be promoted? With this record.
Senator, I stand by my record. I stand by my record.
Sure.
Thank you, Senator Butler. Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Judge Wise, you're not being honest with us, are you?
That is incorrect.
Well, we all may be poorer under President Biden, but we're not stupid. We have a long list of your articles and your opinions and your political statements. On March 8, 2017, you wrote an article for Time magazine while you were a sitting judge. It's entitled Judge, Gender Laws Are at Odds with Science. I'm going to quote your words. When legislators blur the lines of church and state and enact laws that permit or prohibit conduct based on biological gender as only male or female, they place an impossible burden on the judiciary. End quote. Did I read that accurately?
I do not know because I don't have the article in front of me.
Well, I do. You also said in that article, quote, your words, not mine, sex has countless natural permutations, end quote. Did I read that correctly?
I believe that is consistent with medical science and under the Daubert standard, the science that comes in as expert testimony in trials.
On October 13, 2020, while you were serving as a state judge, you wrote an article for The Atlantic entitled, quote, your words, not mine, America's judiciary doesn't look like America. And you criticized this committee and President Trump for his judicial nominees. You said, quote, these are your words, not mine. The judiciary crafted over the past 4 years does not look like America. Not one of these judges is black, and more than 90% were raised or currently identify as Christians. I don't know how you knew that. And then you say, quote, your words, not mine. Identity is the lens that filters everything and everyone we encounter, end quote. Did I read that correctly?
Again, I don't know because I don't have the article in front of me.
I got it right here. You wrote another article on July 31, 2020 for the San Francisco Daily Journal, in which you advocate for the right of sitting judges to be able to go to protests, didn't you?
That is incorrect.
No, it's not. I'm looking at it right here. This is what you say. No judge should be ethical. Your words, not mine. You just said you didn't say them. You turned these articles over. No judge should be ethically constrained from speaking or taking action that reinforces that constitutional and moral imperative. May judges participate in demonstrations that denounce racism, support equal justice, and reinforce our constitutional rights to free speech and peaceable assembly? Yes. End quote. Did I read that correctly?
I don't know because I don't have the article in front of me.
If you're a federal judge, are you going to go to protests?
I would like to answer the substance of the underlying question that was asked.
I'd like you to answer my question. I've only got another minute or so. If you're a federal, let me put it another way. Have you ever gone to a protest, a public protest, while you're a sitting judge?
Senator Kennedy, the article that you are referring to
Have you ever gone
written...
to a protest while you're a sitting judge?
I do not believe that I have ever attended a protest as a sitting judge, or perhaps ever in my life.
Uh-huh. And you talk about Girls Inc. You say you've never heard of them. You were on the, or you don't know that much about them. You were on the board from 2014 to 2024. You're still on their board, aren't you?
I'm not. My term expired this last month.
And you've given them over $50,000, haven't you?
I do not believe that is correct.
That's what your report says. And this is the same Girls Inc. that says, quote, on its website, here's how they define girls. Quote, girls refers to gender expansive youth, cis girls, trans girls, non-binary youth, gender and non-conforming youth, genderqueer youth, and any girl-identified youth. Did I read that correctly?
I don't know. I've never heard of that policy or that definition
right.
from Girls Inc.
Listen, in spite of your, can I just have 30 more seconds? In spite of your strongly held political beliefs, and we've got all of them, all your articles, they're as long as King Kong's are you telling us today, do you believe that you will not allow your strongly held political beliefs to influence your judicial opinions? Do you believe that?
The best evidence of the type of federal judge I will be,
yes,
the
ma'am.
type of
do you
judge.
Believe that? Do you believe that?
the type of judge I have been for 10 years, who is one who always puts the law above my personal.
Do you also believe in Bigfoot? Do you believe in the Tooth Fairy?
Your time has expired, Senator.
Do you believe Jimmy Hoffa died of natural causes?
Senator Hirono.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. President, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, we call it the CFPB, has struck again. It has made another bad decision. This by an agency that has become famous for bad decisions. Here's what's going on, Mr. President. You remember the Dodd-Frank Act, of course, which this Congress passed after the financial meltdown in 2007, 8, and 9. There was a section in the Dodd-Frank Act called Section 1071, fairly innocuous. Congress directed certain information to be collected about small business loans. We were curious about small business lending in America. And so we directed in this Section 1071, we directed certain covered financial institutions, I'll call them small banks because most business loans to small business people come from small banks. We directed small banks to start collecting information about their loans to small business people because we wanted to know, see if we could do something to make their services more efficient. And we, the Congress, asked that 13 pieces of information be collected. The sort of stuff, Mr. President, that you would imagine, very routine stuff, like what was the date of the loan, small business loan, how much was the loan, that sort of thing. Well, the CFPB has taken our work and totally perverted it. The CFPB has promulgated a rule that totally perverts our intention in Section 1071 of the Dodd-Frank Act. First, we intended only small businesses to be covered in providing this information. Now, if you look at the definition of a small business, which is most people use the definition that has been put out by the National Federation of Independent Businesses. That's the NFIB says the small business is a small business a business that has 10 or fewer people and sales of about $500,000 a year. Not according to the CFPB. They want to cast the net as far and wide as they can. Their definition of a small business will almost double that, more than double that. They say a small business is a company with $5 million in revenue or less from the previous fiscal year. Not 500,000, 5 million. So this is going to throw the net of government much, much wider than Congress ever intended. But the second and most egregious thing that CFPB has done, they took our 13 pieces of information that we asked for by Congress, and they have expanded it to 81. All of a sudden, they want a book. Now, here are some examples of what the CFPB is going to require small banks to ask of small business women and small businessmen when they come to the bank and ask for a loan. The bank has to ask the small business person how long it's been in business. That's fair. The bank has to ask the small business woman or small business man about its annual revenue. That's fair. The bank, but then it gets a little intrusive. It gets a lot intrusive. The bank has to ask the small business woman or small business man what their race is. The bank has to ask the small business person about their ethnic background. The small bank has to ask the small business person if he's a male. The bank has to ask the small business person if she's a female. Should be obvious to many, but those questions have to be asked. The bank has to ask the small business person if that person is a lesbian. The bank has to ask the small business person if that person is gay. The bank has to ask that small business person if that small business person is bisexual. The small bank has to ask its customer, that small business person, if that small business person is transgender. The bank, according to the CFPB, has to ask that small business person who is applying for a loan, just came in for a loan for the business, if that person is, quote, queer. The small bank has to ask that small business person if the small business person is intersex. And not only does the bank have to ask those private questions of the person from the small business applying for the loan, the person applying for the loan on behalf of the small business has to bring in every one of its owners who own 25% or more. And the bank's got to start over with those people. Are you a male? Are you a female? What's your race? Tell me about your ethnic background. Are you a lesbian? Are you gay? Are you bisexual? Are you transgender? Are you, quote, queer? Are you, quote, intersex? Give me a break. And then, all of this information that's collected, this private information, has got to be sent to the CFPB. And they're going to put it on their website. Are you gay? Are you lesbian? What race are you? They're going to put it on their website. Now, the CFPB says, well, it's going to be institutional level data, just top-line data fields. Bull. You will be able to take this data, particularly if you're a small bank in a rural area, and be able to, the snoops will be able to go on that public website and find out identify small business people in their community, how much money they're borrowing, how they answered the question about whether they were gay, how they answered the question about whether they were intersex. Incredibly private information. And why? Why does the CFPB need this information? Well, the truth is they don't, but I'll tell you why. The CFPB is setting these small business people, but also these small banks, up for lawsuits. That's exactly what they're doing. And what happens if a small business person goes into the bank and the small banker says, listen, I hate to have to ask you this, but CFPB says I have to ask you, are you gay? As if that's anybody's business. And the small business person says, that's none of your business. And I'm not going to answer that question. I'm here for a loan, not to talk about my private life. What I do in my privacy in my bedroom with a consenting adult is my opinion, Mr. Banker. And the small banker says, you're right, I'm sorry, I had to ask. They made me. If the small business person won't answer the question, the small banker can get in trouble with the CFPB. What has the world come to? And the CFPB, it doesn't care about the cost. You know what this is going to cost to implement every year? $400 million. Why? And that doesn't even include the cost of actually setting up this program. That'll be hundreds of millions of dollars more. And it's not like the CFPB is exactly a wizard when it comes to data security. Yeah, it's going to be on their public website, but in terms of the granular information, the CFPB says, oh, don't worry, we'll protect it. Right, like it protected it a few months ago. The personally identifiable information of 256,000 consumers, which was being held by the CFPB, was breached. And you know what the CFPB did? They didn't tell anybody from 2 months. They acted like a rock, only dumber. We're not talking about wizards here. Wizards of financial data, privacy, and security. This, Mr. President, you know, I hear it all the time. You probably hear it back in your state, perhaps, but people tell me all the time, Kennedy, what's wrong with Washington, D.C.? Why is common sense illegal there? This rule. What does the world come to? So, my Congressional Review Act request is to have the Senate tell the CFPB that it is none of their business what a private American does with another private adult American in the privacy of their bedroom. We are free to so long as it doesn't break any laws, to express our sexuality however we want to, and it's none of the CFPB's business. And with that, Mr. President.
Senator Kennedy from Louisiana is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, the Biden administration has operated as Iran's best friend, hasn't it?
No, I disagree completely, Senator.
Well, Iran sold Iraq $10 billion, not million, $10 billion worth of electricity, but Iraq couldn't pay them because of our sanctions against Iran. The Biden administration waived those sanctions, didn't it?
Senator,
so that Iran could get $10 billion. Isn't that a fact?
No, Senator, those waivers started under the Trump administration. That money is still in Iraq. That money has never been to Tehran. It will never go to Tehran.
The first waiver was on July 2023, wasn't it?
Senator, I believe those waivers started in 2018.
The first waiver that the Biden administration did was July of 2023, wasn't it?
So, Senator, again, I believe the waiver program started in.
You didn't issue a waiver on July of 2023.
Senator, the waivers were continued into 2023.
And you issued another waiver to get the money to Iran in November of 2023, didn't you?
Senator, as I said, that money has never been, will never go to Iran. The money is still in Iraq. The money may be used for humanitarian purposes, but not a dollar of that money.
And you issued another waiver on March of 2024, not too long ago. That was 6 weeks after Iran killed 3 American soldiers.
Senator,
you gave Iraq permission to give Iran $10 billion, didn't you?
No, Senator. As I mentioned, this was something that started in 2018 under the Trump administration. It allowed Iraq to purchase electricity and to store that money in Iraq. None of that money to date will ever go to Iran. The money is being held for humanitarian purposes.
You're not telling the truth, Mr. Secretary. No disrespect, but that's just not true. Senator Menendez and Senator Scott made the point. We all know, unless you peaked in high school, you know that money is fungible. The Biden administration also paid Iran $6 billion to release 5 of our prisoners, didn't it?
Senator, again, that money is in Qatar. None of that money has been used. It hasn't been moved. And as I said earlier, while money is fungible in the United States because we care about our people, it's not fungible for the Iranian.
So the money's in Qatar, in a bank in Qatar?
Yes.
Now, what do you think? Who controls that bank in Qatar?
Those banks are controlled by those individuals who run that financial institution.
I see. So if President Biden says Qatar Bank, don't give this money to Iran, and the Qatar government says give the money to Iran, who do you think the Qatar Bank's going to listen to, Mr. Secretary?
So, Senator, those banks in Qatar value greatly their ability to have a relationship with the United States because that's how they make money.
Do you believe in the tooth fairy?
Ultimately, if we cut off those banks, they will no longer be able to make money.
Do you believe in the Easter Bunny?
So, Senator, while I understand your point, fundamentally, none of that money has gone to Iran, and that money is not going to go directly to Iran.
Now, you did the same thing with Maduro, you meaning the Biden administration. You guys did the same thing with Maduro in Venezuela. You removed all the sanctions on oil and mining, including gold, with Maduro, the dictator of Venezuela, didn't you?
So GL 44 and 43 were put in place in Venezuela. 43 has already...
Is that a yes?
GL 43 has been removed.
Yeah, so you said, okay, Maduro, we're going to remove Maduro, best friends with Iran and Cuba and China and Russia. The Biden administration removed the sanctions on oil and mining in Venezuela.
Senator.
And Maduro said, I promise you that I'll hold a free and fair election. And then he put all his opponents in jail. And the Biden administration has done nothing, hasn't it, except stand there sucking on its teeth.
So, Senator, I want to say again, we provided general licenses. We did not remove the sanctions. The reason we did that was because we did not trust. So what we can do...
The sanctions on Maduro's oil are not there, are they?
General License 44, which gives permission for the sale of oil, expires on April 17th, which will then put those sanctions back in place. We did not remove the sanctions.
The problem you folks have is that you want to quote Socrates in the middle of a bar fight. Iran is not our friend. Venezuela is not our friend. President Biden keeps giving them money to buy weapons to try to kill us.
Senator,
do you not understand that?
Sanctions on the Iranian regime. We have not allowed $1 from Qatar or from the Iraqi electricity fund to flow to Iran.
That's just not true. Senator Menendez explained that to you.
The money.
How can you be that obtuse?
Senator, as I've said, our goal is to make sure that we take every action to prevent Iran's destabilizing activity in the region. We're going to continue to go after Iran's sale of oil and try and limit their ability as best we can using the tools that you've given us. I'm here before the Senate asking for additional tools that will allow us to continue to do that.
Okay, you saw Senator Kennedy made your point. Senator Warner from Virginia is recognized.
Thank you. Senator Kennedy.
Chair, and thanks to all of our witnesses. Dr. Kowalski, thank you for giving so much. Have you ever heard the expression yada, yada, yada? What does that mean?
Yada, 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 man?
Yeah.
On and on and on?
Yeah. We've had so much yada, yada, yada about affordable insulin. Not from people like you, but from us. We've been nibbling around the edges for years. Dr. Rogers, thank you for giving so much. Let me ask you a question. Do you have health insurance?
Fortunately, as a government employee, I do have health insurance.
And it's pretty good, isn't it?
It's pretty good, Senator.
Now, who do you think needs affordable insulin? Who do you think needs capping the price of insulin at $30 or so more? You or a homeless or an uninsured person?
Was that to me, Senator, or to
You.
Dr. Kowalski? Well, as you asked the question, I think the person who's less available to afford it would probably benefit more.
Yeah. We got 30 million people who are uninsured in this country. And some of them are diabetic, too. Now, Senator Shaheen and Senator Collins have a great bill Senator Warnock and I have a bill too on insulin. It's called the Affordable Insulin Now Act, and we're working closely with Senator Collins and Senator Shaheen. Our bill would cover everybody, whether you have health insurance or you're uninsured, because a lot of people become uninsured. Now, I know our health insurance companies, and God bless them, they're trying to work with us to lower the cost of insulin, and they have these programs, they call them patient assistance programs. So if you're uninsured and you can't afford your insulin, they'll work with you. But have you ever tried to apply for one of those programs? Have either of you, any of you? Oh my God. First, the application process. The fine print to apply, there's so much of it. You could hide a dead body in there and nobody'd ever find it. Number two, they send the medicine to your doctor, not to you. So if you got a job or if you don't have a job, you got to go to the expense of driving all the way to your doctor's office, probably have to pay your doctor to get the medication. I mean, that's a special kind of stupid. These free programs only cover one or two forms of insulin. And get this, yeah, they'll give you cheap insulin, maybe free insulin for a month or 3 months, or at best a year. And then after a year, you go in one day and instead of $30, it's $567.23. And you go, oh my God, I got to go sell blood plasma to be able to afford it. We need to stop nibbling around the edges. We need to be smart enough to figure this out. And the cost, I think it could be done for $250 million a year. And I'm not talking about taking out a reverse mortgage on Alaska and borrowing more money. I'm talking about finding it in our budget. At least let me ask you a quick question. You probably don't know the answer. I had to look it up. But if I started counting to $1 billion right now, right this moment, in 2023, and I counted, y'all listen to this, you may know the answer. I counted one number a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I counted all day and all night, and I counted in the shower, and I counted between bites of a Pop-Tart at breakfast. I keep counting and counting. How long do you think it'd take me to count to $1 billion?
A very long time.
You know how long? Right, I told you were smart. It would take me 32 years. For $1 billion, I'd be 55. It would be 2055. I wouldn't make it. Now, you know how big the federal budget is? That's just $1 billion, folks. The federal budget is $6,000 billion every year. And we can't find $250 million to cap the price of insulin? Let's do it right. No more yada, yada, yada.
Thank you.
Judge, our second judge, will you allow your personal beliefs to interfere with your judgment on the bench?
No, Senator.
And do you have personal beliefs?
Yes, Senator.
I'm glad to hear that both of you have personal beliefs. You've thought about the world. Judge, do you think minorities need special help to achieve?
Senator, I think as a country, we have come a long way. There are certain issues that the Supreme Court just decided last term on a case of affirmative action that dealt with this issue.
Yes, sir, I'm familiar with the case. Do you believe that minorities in America need special help to succeed?
Senator, I think all people should deserve equal opportunity to succeed.
Okay. Do you believe minorities need special help to succeed?
Senator, again, I think based upon a person's background and their community they come from and what hardships they face, I hope that all persons in this country who work hard have an opportunity to succeed.
Let me try it again. Do you believe that minorities in America today need special help to achieve, to succeed?
Yeah, again, Senator, from all persons, no matter what community they come from.
Yes, sir, but do you understand the question? Am I not being clear?
No, I understand, yes, sir.
Okay, would you answer it for me, please, sir?
Well, Senator, I'm stating again.
So yes or no, it's pretty simple.
Well, I believe that is a complex question in many ways that it's difficult to answer yes or no. Again, I believe all persons.
I don't understand why. You either believe that minorities need special help to succeed or you don't. Is there a reason you won't answer my question?
Well, Senator, again, my answer is persons from all communities. I would also note, of course, there are certain issues when you say minorities.
You're not going to answer it, are you?
Well, like race that has been
Okay, let's move on. I think by not answering it, you have answered it, but can you tell me what you think about the Navy, whether it's systemically racist?
Senator, the Navy I know is not, and in fact, its primary focus is to be the most lethal maritime fighting force in the world.
Okay, thank you for a straightforward answer.
Thanks for watching Patriots. Click on the Creator Warp logo to subscribe. Check out these other videos and support us in our store, Patriot Threads. Have an awesome day.